Okay, and finally, the ideology question. This was just on paper one. This was a bit of more of a mixed bag, some of the answers for this particular question. Some people only wrote like a few lines or one paragraph. I'm not sure whether that's because people ran out of time, or whether people found the ideologies hard and therefore didn't bother doing it or didn't bother revising for it. You must spend the correct amount of time on this, about 30 minutes. It is worth 24 marks. It can be a grade difference. In fact, it often is a grade difference. So you do need to make sure you spend the right amount of time on the ideology questions. Really make sure you get your head around them. So if you found them hard last year, then this year, make sure you either come to some lessons when I teach the first years it again, or really try and get your head around them. Okay, on the more positive side, those who did give it a good shot, most people had at least two correct key thinkers. Most people had a range of different points. However, there are some areas which people do need to work on. I think one general point is just be clear that these are to what extent questions. So, as I've said, your argument needs to be that conservatives or socialists, whatever, agree to a large extent or a small extent, or vice versa, they disagree to a small or large extent. And just make sure you're coming back to your arguments about to what extent are they agreeing or disagreeing or being united or disunited for question 3B. Okay, so 3A, again, I can't remember which one was the most popular. I think 3B was the most popular, but for 3A, there's some quite good points on this one. However, you need to make sure you link them to the state. So quite a few people, for example, gave me a whole big paragraph about the economy, which was lovely and all about, Ayn Rand and co believe in free markets, whereas more traditional conservatives, are a little bit more hesitant about some of the side effects of the economy. But it needs to be linked to the state. So, for Ayn Rand and the neoliberals, they believe in a very small state and very small state control of the economy because they believe in freedom and economic freedom. Whereas for more traditional conservatives, who are a bit more suspicious about some of the negative side effects of capitalism, they believe in more of a state role, and how the One Nation conservatives believe in more state intervention in the economy to try and make sure they avert some kind of nasty revolution or something. So just make sure you link them into the question, in this case the state. Again, some people talk about human nature, but again, didn't really link it into the state. So the fact that traditional conservatives, and especially our friend Mr. Hobbes, believe that human nature is really negative, that means that the state has a much more proactive role in ensuring law and order. Whereas for the more neoliberal Ayn Rand kind of brand of conservatives, their view of human nature is not as negative. And in fact, some of those negatives they think are positive, don't they? And this means that the state has got a different relationship with people. Yes, it's there for law and order, but it requires less control over people and law and order because people are not as bad. Regarding 3B, to what extent is socialism more disunited, I hate that word, than united? I think this was the more common one. Again, this is a real broad question, isn't it? It hasn't said like the state or society or equality. It's a very broad one. So this one leaves quite a lot of stuff you can discuss. I mean, obvious points, things like equality, do they agree or disagree over equality? I mean, socialists tend to disagree about everything, don't they? They could talk about the state if you wanted to. Do they agree or disagree over the role of the state? Do they agree or disagree over human nature? You can basically get everything into that particular question, can't you? So there's no reason why everyone shouldn't really have had a good go at doing 3A or 3B. And again, if, it's the exam timings, isn't it? Make sure you leave that half an hour for this question. I know some people find ideology is hard, but they are worth quite a few marks. So it is worth having a go. And one of people didn't write anything for this question, which again, you're writing yourself out of high grades doing that. Even if you just wrote a quick introduction, a paragraph with some agree, disagree, or whatever, and a conclusion, you probably get yourself 3, 4, 5 marks, which is better than 0, than not trying to answer it. So make sure you do answer these questions and make sure you give yourself the right time for them as well. Okay, I hope these 3 videos have been helpful on the mocks. Obviously, I'll be seeing you this week, and you maybe watch this after I've seen you. I will send out the mark schemes as well, and I'll send out the examiner's report so you can have a look at those. And as I said in the first video, the examiner's report does actually include some examples of student answers as well, so you might find those quite useful to have a look at.